Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming out here. My name is Dylan Young. I am the president of the Morris Campus Student Association. Thank you for coming out to the mayor and city council debate. So here's how stuff's going to go down. 7 p.m. we're going to start with the mayor debate. We're going to ask each candidate about 5 questions. Each candidate will have 3 minutes each to respond to each question. The questions are predetermined. We wrote them and we sent them to the candidates a couple days ago. Nani, Makukuman, can't hear me back here at all? How about that? How about that? Let me start from the top. So, welcome to our mayor and city council debate. The Morris Campus Student Association welcomes you all. Thank you to the candidates for accepting the invitation to join us. Unfortunately, Brian Salvey, who's running for city council, can't join us tonight. He did accept our invitation, but some stuff came up today. Sorry about that, Brian. So here's how stuff is going to go down. We have 5 predetermined questions that we're going to ask each candidate. The candidates were given the questions in advance to prepare. Each of them get 3 minutes to respond. Other than that, there's not much to say for. Thank you all for coming out. All right, with no further ado, should we start this debate? I think so.
Okay, I'm just gonna make sure you guys can hear me in the back.
Yes, much better.
Okay, I'm gonna pass off the mic to Autumn, who will introduce herself.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you for coming. I'm really happy to see the community involvement. My name's Autumn Johnson. I originally came to Morris in 2016 as a college student. I've since graduated in 2020 with my degree in political science and sociology. Currently, I am working as a crime victim advocate for Someplace Safe here in town. So I have a lot of connections working with a lot of different organizations in town. And I really hope to continue being involved in our community.
Good evening. I am Jeff Miller. I've been on the council since 2005, lifelong resident of Morris. Attended my schooling in Morris, went to Alec Tech for marketing and sales after graduation. Retired from the U.S. Postal Service as a letter carrier 2 years ago. I spent about 25 years as a mail carrier. Currently semi-retired, working part-time for Westmore as a delivery, truck delivery for them, and some for the Morris Co-op agronomy, fertilizer, and hydrous. One of 9 children, so growing up I learned to be able to communicate and get along with the people in the family to make things work. I think that's a nutshell of my life, pretty much. 24 years in the Morris Fire Department. I retired from that a number of years ago, but was very active in that with different things. So I've been involved with the community.
Our first question is, why do you want to be a member of City Council?
I want to be on City Council because I believe that I can truly bring a positive perspective and a fresh set of eyes to City Council. I strongly believe that the best way to have your voice heard is to be involved, to speak up and reach out and get involved with your community. I also really believe that to be able to see change, we need to reach out to our community. We need to be able to have an open and welcoming atmosphere that people want to come to City Council. That people want to be involved with their council members and they want to reach out to their mayor and city manager and hear their ideas and be able to comfortably express their thoughts and opinions so that they can be shared with the community. Sorry.
When I first ran for city council, I was upset with some things that were happening and the way they were being done, and I wanted to see change. So I guess I was always taught, if you want things to change, get involved. If you don't like the way things are going, get involved and to help change things for the better. Stevens County is a big area for me because I'm born and raised here, but Morris is half of Stevens County, so we're the hub. Everybody comes in for, as some earlier said, for the medical, our grocery shopping, the businesses up and down Main Street. So everything to the west of us, we're the big hub. So I think we need to keep growing our recreational, creating and working with county, the state on the different things with the daycare pods, the hubs there. So there's a lot of different things. The recreation, you know, we need to keep spending money and expanding on all of those things for recreational things also for our residents to do in Morris.
For our next question, we would like to hear more about what you want to do. Could you describe your general platform and some of your biggest goals as counselor?
3 points for my main focus is accessibility, communication, and safety in Morris. Right now, I think that the communication and accessibility of our city council is a little lacking. I, again, think that people should want to come to their city council meetings. They should be able to, in a comfortable and convenient way, be able to express their thoughts, opinions, and concerns to members. As far as I'm aware right now, the only way to be able to communicate with the entirety of the council is to stand up during citizen comments. That puts people on the spot in a crowd to speak publicly about their concerns. And they have their face to it, which in a small community can be very intimidating. I also believe that, if mentioned before, I believe Zach said that something like a text system where people are able to express their concerns, again, openly, accessibly, and conveniently. I also, again, with safety, there are a number of unmarked intersections in Morris. There's also a number of residential streets with no sidewalks. I think this is a huge safety concern as we have a number of people who travel exclusively by walking, wheelchair, or motor chair in Morris. And every year I've lived in Morris, I've lived near an unmarked intersection, and every year I see people speed through these intersections without looking to see if there's any pedestrians or cars. And I myself am concerned for my safety when I'm walking around the community with my dog, that I'm worried someday someone's gonna blow through an intersection when I might be passing through. And again, just the number of residential streets with no sidewalks. That means citizens are walking or in their chairs in the street next to cars passing by. And some of these streets are very busy, and this can be very dangerous. So hopefully, if you elect me to city council again, communication, accessibility, and safety in Morris.
Well, my biggest issue probably would be housing and the daycare, but we are continually trying to get grants through the state to do some improvements on substandard housing in Morris. There's a lot of properties in certain areas that need some upgrades, so we've been working on trying to do that. We need to continue to work with high school, the university, on things we can cost share. We went together and built the ball fields out on the university property that all three separate identities contributed funds, but we all use them in unison. The college comes out and uses Eagles Ballpark for their baseball games instead of having to keep multiple fields, that we're able to cost share and to utilize things of that type. The police department, we just worked on an agreement with the sheriff's department to take over policing in Morris, so there's going to be some cost savings there. The Morris model, things that we can do with the Morris model, and it's been discussed by the mayors, but we've worked on solar, we're working on recycling, the organics. Industrial park, yes, as Kevin I think said, our industrial park is full. We need to get on top of that now, so when we have somebody come to town that wants to do something, to come in with industry in our town, we have a place for them to go instead of waiting until somebody comes and we're like, oh, I guess we have no place for you. Let's work on that and come back and see us in 6 months. We need to get these things done, so when somebody comes and wants to expand in our community, we're ready to help them out.
One of the most hot-button stories in town is the loss of the Morris Police Department. What do you see as the future for policing in the town, and what potential partners will you work with?
So I want to start by saying I have complete confidence in Sheriff Dingman and his officers to be able to successfully and safely serve all of Stevens County, including Morris. I know that they have taken the necessary steps to be able to hire and make sure they have the equipment they need to be able to serve all of Stevens County. But the issue with the police department is what got me initially interested in being involved in city council. I know that the city council says that it was a surprise to them when they learned about the shortage of officers with the police department. And that really concerned me, that there needs to be better communication. There was a lead up to this shortage. Why was this not better communicated with the city council? But furthermore, I was concerned with city council's reaction and communication with the town. To me, the reaction seemed very reactive. It was not a proactive reaction to communicate with the community that this is happening, we are aware, and we are working on it, and we will continue to communicate with you. To me, it seemed that the city council and city manager and mayor became aware that the city was concerned and confused and worried, and that's when they decided to make a statement. I, as a crime victim advocate, I work with a lot of victims of crime, and I really frequently remind people, call the police. That's what they are there for. If you need help, call the police. But I had a number of my clients tell me they were deeply concerned when they heard that there was a lack of officers on the police department. They were deeply concerned that they weren't hearing what was the city going to be doing about it. And they were confused when all anybody heard was that there would be no more police department. I had clients tell me they were afraid that their emergency calls would not be answered. They were concerned that if they were to remain in Stevens County with a possible offender that they were scared of, they would have to move to someplace else where they knew their police department was reliable. So I think we need to continue to have open communication with Sheriff Dingman so he feels comfortable that he can confidently tell us any concerns, so city council can continue to be proactive in reacting to things, proactive in making sure that we are prepared for any possible concerns instead of being purely reactive to concerns.
I sat in on the committee to meet with the county, 2 members from the Morris City Council, 2 members from the county commissioners, city manager, and the county coordinator sat down and we discussed the possibility of working with the county, and we negotiated a term where the county would provide 6 officers with a set number of hours for patrol in the city of Morris annually. I stopped and talked to Sheriff Dingman this afternoon, asked him how things were going because I have thought that it was a very smooth transition, and he agreed with me. He said the last of the new officers actually started on the staff the 3rd of October, so they are up to a full staff, and we have great communication with Sheriff Dingman, and anytime we have any issues, is glad to come and meet with us. I think they're doing a great job, and it's got the potential for us to save some money that we can spend on other issues for the city of Morris.
Real quick, I'm just gonna try fixing the sound.
Do you want me to do it?
Try it.
How will you okay.
Yep, much better. Sorry, everybody.
The next question for our candidates: how will you continue to promote the development and growth of community wealth in Morris throughout your term?
I think a big concern for me right now is the number of businesses who are having employment shortages. I know that the mayor DePape, they talked a lot about addressing childcare needs already. And I've seen a lot of discussion online discussing why is there an employment shortage? How can we get people to want to apply and work at our businesses? And I think something that does need to be addressed is people want to see higher pay. They want to see a better work environment. How can we address these problems? And I believe that City Council is in that position that we can facilitate some sort of discussion about what expectation employees have for their employers, but also what expectation employers have for their employees. These employment shortages not only impact a business because they aren't able to be open their full capacity to their normal working hours, but this also means that busy families with tight schedules now have to work around the shorter hours at local businesses, which just further hurts the businesses. So that's really a top priority to me. How can we make Morris a welcoming, good, healthy, and happy place to continue working? That's a vital part to our community to thrive.
Again, the biggest thing is we're just short on workers for everybody and the daycare. The county is building the 6 pods on the old elementary school property. The city is looking at working with them to help put in water sewer to help cost share some of the stuff there. We're working with our city engineer on that, trying to get a cost, but the county is going to spend $1 million to put in 6 daycare pods that hopefully will house approximately 75 spots for daycare. A couple of our businesses in town have pretty much committed for a pod. That their employees, they feel, have enough children that they'll say, we'll fill up one of your pods with our employees' children. So there's commitments there. The city is working with them on that. Employers need employees. And like you say, the wages, well, that's pretty much determined by the businesses. But what we can do to draw them in is to have adequate housing for them to live in. So working on getting the housing, the different apartment buildings. What we need to continue to work on is our parks, our walk paths, a lot of the different things there for recreational stuff in our community that the city can do. Our main things are to provide the public services for police, fire, and the streets, water, sewer. And then the rest of it, hopefully, is all luxuries for us. Thank you.
And for our final predetermined question, how will you bridge the gaps between different interest groups and still make a positive change in Morris?
I am confident that I am a good person to help bridge some of these interest groups. When I first came to Morris in 2016, I was told a narrative how the campus and the town itself does not get along. And let me tell you, I do not agree with that narrative. Once I began working and getting involved with the community, I realized that was a really vital part to my Morris campus student experience, and it ultimately really was a huge part of me continuing to live in Morris to this day. I think it's really important that we address that it's not just the campus and the town. But I noticed while working in the community, there are a lot of other interest groups within the town that people make disparaging comments about, whether it be a religious group, a business, a ethnic group, that we have open conversations about, are these comments, are these stigmas true? And how can we overcome them? How can we all become involved in a community as a whole of everyone who lives within Morris? And I think it's important that city councils, as leaders of this community, make an active effort to be involved with the community. Being involved in city council is a large part, it's local government, but also to attend community events, to attend campus events, to actively promote these events so we can all have, as a community, join together.
I guess, and the earlier discussion was the communication, but back and forth between the different groups, inclusion, volunteering. We've had different groups come in and volunteer to work in some of the parks to help clean up after our windstorms this spring. We had different groups come in and work as a unit with other groups. So it was nice to see different groups of people from totally different areas get together and do things collectively. So I guess just remembering that we're always welcoming everybody in for the discussion. Sometimes you might not feel like your voice counts, but you're always willing to be heard and just to be included regardless of what your group may consist of.
If you have any questions, let's shout them at the candidates.
Hi.
Come up here.
One thing that I want to bring up that came to my attention today was the University of Minnesota Board Regent Steve Spigum had some very disparaging remarks concerning diversity here in Morris. He may as well have just tattooed the whole town with the words, "Do not come here." I took offense at that And I just hope and pray that our candidates, as well as our community, realizes one person is not gonna bring this community down. We can all work together to build our community up. I am a small business owner here, and I've been a small business owner for 4 years. I am a resident here of 9 years. My husband grew up here for many years. And I want to know from our mayor candidates first, if you want to take it one at a time, what do you plan on doing about that comment regarding diversity here in Morris? And how will you improve diversity amongst our community?
You know, Diane, very good question. Like you, quite honestly, I was shocked when I seen that. As a graduate of UMM myself, I think, you know, our diversity is what makes this campus a great place to study. The bigger question for the vice chair is, you know, I think he was right in raising and sounding the alarm with regards to the enrollment decline. My biggest question to the chair would be what took you so long? I mean, we're sitting, the enrollment out at campus has been slowly declining over the last decade. And for it to get to this point where we're down almost 50%, we're down about 47%. You think about that for just a minute. That's half as many students as we had, well, when I graduated, I know we had a class of over 2,000. So we have half as many students in our town, shopping in our town, going to the bars and the various restaurants. So I think he was right in sounding the alarm. I certainly wouldn't have worded it the way he did, because I look at the statistics of what our campus is made up of right now, and I just pulled these statistics off of the website, and we're 54% white, 32% American Indian, 4% black, 4% Hispanic, 2% Asian, and 3% international. So I don't know where he's coming from with regards to the diversity issue. I just think he chose a very poor way to bring this to light. So I guess, I know he had mentioned he was probably going to be making a trip out here to Morris, and I would certainly like to be there when he comes and have a conversation with the Vice Chair, Svega.
Okay, back to the question again was, what am I gonna do to keep to what? I'm sorry.
What will you do to promote continued diversity in this town? How will you attract more people so that we're not just the good old white boy club here? Because as a small business, I have a lot of the college kids that come into my pet store. I welcome them all. I'm like their mom, you know, they're homesick, they're lonely, they love to look at the animals. I don't care if they're black, white, polka dotted, I don't care if they're transgendered, mixed gendered, gay, straight, whatever. Come to my store, this is a happy place. Morris is a happy town. What are you gonna do to make sure it stays that way?
So just repeating the question for everyone in the back who might not have been able to hear, the question is, what are the candidates going to do to ensure that the diversity which characterizes Morris continues and thrives?
I think that diversity brings diversity. So that is one person who doesn't live here making a comment that was totally inaccurate, and just making a comment for whatever reason he made the comment. It was inappropriate and not. So if we take that, and like I said, diversity brings diversity, and I think Autumn mentioned too that as a student she came and heard this rift between the town and the college, and I think if you've lived here for a while you realize that how many people sitting up here came to college here and still live in this community. That shows you right there that it's somebody else's perspective of what's here in Morris. Now we can make a big to-do of it and ask him to come to the community, recall, you know, make a statement in the paper, but I think again, diversity brings diversity, and we're all living here and we all understand that, and we're all just fine. Like you said, you welcome everyone to come into your store, and I truly believe that the majority of the citizens in Morris feel that way too, and we're just going to continue to be our welcoming selves.
So his comments came to my attention on Monday, and I kind of scratched my head, not necessarily understanding what he's trying to accomplish. I think that one of the positive things about this community is how diverse it is, specifically with the college, and I think that much to Kevin's point, I think that he's trying to attack lower enrollment in the wrong place. Now, I may be way off base, but I also believe that overall collegiate enrollment is down. So I'm not sure where he's getting diversity as his center point, as his focal point. And if I recall correctly, I saw a snippet from the hearing today where he made some comment that he's 72 and he wouldn't necessarily make these same comments when he's 54. So I'm not necessarily saying that age is playing a part of that, but I also don't think that he necessarily understands what the college is about and what we're for here with the college. And I really appreciate the letter that, and I believe it's an open letter that Dylan wrote to the Vice Chancellor, and I support it 100%. I think that he needs to make another visit, if not multiple, to completely understand the culture of what's going on here, because I think that the college as a whole does have a very, very good culture, a very safe culture, and a very positive culture.
So, thank you, Diane, for bringing this up. I was not only disappointed when I heard this, I was actually very angry. As a person of color, I often don't get to forget that I am a person of color. One of my favorite questions people like to ask is, what are you? And that's what I thought of when I heard him make this comment. To me, I thought, what does he mean by too diverse? What does he mean when he's questioning, is Morris too diverse? Is he encouraging that we promote more actively don't accept people of color to our campus? Is he asking that we actively promote for more white students to come to our campus? I think Morris has a perfect level of diversity, and I feel very welcome and safe and secure in our community due to our diversity. As a person of color, I often am told that I'm only in a place because I am a person of color. That affirmative action gave me the spot that I have because I'm a person of action. And when I hear that he made the comment that friends of his said their children did not come to Morris because they feel uncomfortable due to that diversity, I wonder then, why are people of color making his friends' children uncomfortable? People of color have always been told that we are making people uncomfortable. We're told that we can't make things race issues because that will make people uncomfortable. And now we're being told that simply by being people of color, going to a university, his friends' children would feel uncomfortable going to school. So to the question of what can we do to actively promote and encourage that people continue to come to Morris despite this comment made, I think the president of the Regent Board, who released a statement, made a really good statement. He is actually hosting the next Regency meeting in March 2023 at the Morris campus. He is actively promoting and encouraging people to come, and I think it's very big of him to step up and say, you made this comment, we need to make this better, and we need to come to Morris and actively view this campus and address the retention issue. It's not a diversity problem. It's a low retention, it's a low enrollment issue, and I think Zach was correct in that it is not just Morris, it is everywhere. And I think it's very unfair to blame it on diversity. So I really look forward to next March when the Regents do come to Morris. I'm excited to hear their ideas. I'm excited to communicate with them and share ideas about how we continue to make Morris a star in the U of M system. We are leading in sustainability, and I wish he had mentioned that. That would have been a great way to bring students. We have an amazing environmental science program. We are a leader in our state for sustainability. And I think that's a pinnacle reason to come to Morris. It's a reason a lot of people, we have a large science group, a lot of people in STEM. We have an amazing curriculum at Morris. People should come to Morris for that. We shouldn't be afraid to come to Morris because of diversity. So I thank you again for bringing that to light, and I thank Dylan again for also making that a public, because it was really hidden inside that Regency meeting, and I still shake my head and scratch my head and puzzle on what could he possibly mean by that still.
I guess I'm pretty proud too when I saw the numbers, and I saw it on TV this morning when we were 54% white, and I'm looking at the next three between the Indian, the Black, and Hispanic at 42 as almost half of the population. I'm pretty proud of that for our little town, little community out here in West Central Minnesota. But as we've all talked about, enrollment is declining constantly. We're down to 1,200. The online ed, but trying to figure out why to throw this at it just doesn't make any sense. But I think as long as we're all welcoming to everybody in our community, regardless of what we look like or what our thoughts are, if we believe in God or if we don't believe in God, if we decide, what sexual orientation we decide to be, it really shouldn't matter. Come in, be welcoming to our whole community, and be part of Morris.
I might be all wrong, but I feel an undercurrent from the council members that there's a communication issue between the council and the city manager. So I'd like you all, 5 of you, to talk about that. Maybe maybe it's not a true statement, but that's what I'm sensing. What would you do as mayor or as city council people to correct or to improve communication if there is a lack of communication between the council and the city manager, given the fact that the city manager often quotes the charter as being a reason why there's going to be less participation by city council members, even though we're paying them to provide input into the governance of Morris. What do you see your role as a city council in addressing issues that you think are important that the city manager may not?
Did everyone hear in the back? No. He's asking about communication with the city manager from the candidates.
So I obviously have not been on the city council, so that's something that I will have to learn about. What is the current level of communication? How currently is the power and decision-making power divided among the council members, the city manager, and the mayor? I think it's important that we reevaluate. Our charter is outdated. We need to look at that again and address how is that relevant to our current day and time and current societal and economic state. Obviously 100 years ago, we were a very different town. We, as a group of people, as a society, were very different. So if elected to city council, of course, I have a lot to learn, but I think when you relearn things, when you learn things from the beginning, it opens up new possibilities. It opens up new options that we might not have been aware of before. So I really want to have good active communication about, is this something that someone decided and as city council members we're just nodding our heads and saying yes? Or is this a discussion we had together, a group decision that we decided for as what would be best for the entire community?
The city manager's job is to run the city of Morris on a day-to-day operation. As a council, when we meet for our council meetings twice a month, he collects the information and brings it to us, and we vote either to move forward with it or to not to proceed with it. We've had some discussion amongst the council and the current mayor on having more work sessions where we can sit and discuss more things with the city manager to get more input into what's going to happen with the city. So we're working on it. Our city manager has a military background. He's very set in his ways, and it's when you deal with him, but I grew up next to Blaine all my life. I mean, we lived across the alley from him growing up, He's just very forward, and here's how it's gonna be, concrete, but I think it's just the military background that he's had, that some people just feel like he's ramming it down your throat, but I don't get it, or I don't take it that way. But we've discussed it on getting more work sessions to discuss things, to have more involvement from the council and the mayor as we proceed with things for the city.
First of all, thank you for that question. There is a lot of moving parts to city government. Our form of city government gives the city manager, according to our charter, a lot of power. And I guess what I would say is this: too much is given, much is required. And he has a lot of authority, the city manager position, but I think at times that authority gets overextended. Now, our city charter states, and one of the things that really came to light for me in this with regards to communication, is this whole disbanding of the Morris Police Department situation brought a lot of things to light for me, because we have employees that were told by their city manager that they could not come and speak to a city council representative for possibly getting terminated for having that type of a conversation with sitting city council members. And I brought that up in one of our meetings, and Aaron Jordan backed City Manager Hill up on that end and said that City Manager Hill is working well within his power of city manager to handle his departments as he sees fit. Now, I would argue that just because our charter says you can do something isn't really a best practice. If I was running a business and I had a policy like that where my employees did not feel comfortable coming and talking to me about a problem, how long do you think I would be in business? I would be having employees walking out the door in droves. So we really need to take a look at that charter, reevaluate how the city manager conducts and works with his various departments. One step we are taking right now, and I shared with you this earlier, is the performance evaluation process that we're going to try to implement here very soon. Kim and I have been working on that along with City Manager Hill, and he has been very receptive to that too, by the way, because Blaine has communicated to every one of us, and I've heard it from his mouth several times. He really has, his biggest challenge as a city manager is how can he communicate better with the city council? Because in a meeting setting, it's very difficult. So what the performance evaluation process would allow all of us to do is to sit down in a closed door meeting session and have that conversation with the city manager while evaluating his performance in all the various levels of city government. Because again, there are a lot of moving parts, but we need to facilitate feedback from all the departments. And one of the things that we used to do that we don't do anymore, department heads were always welcome to come to city council meetings when I first started. That went away. And I was always kind of wondering why department heads stopped coming. Well, so I went out and I talked to some of those department heads. I said, why are you not coming to meetings anymore? And they said, we were told not to come by our city manager. And I was just taken aback by that. I thought, what do you mean you weren't allowed to come? Well, I really didn't. The answer that I got is he was afraid that somebody would put that person on the spot and maybe they would answer it in a way that he didn't feel comfortable with. So, I don't know, we just need to open up those lines of communication between city council, the mayor, and the city manager, because quite honestly, if you don't communicate right, things just aren't going to go well, and they're not going to end well, just like what we've seen with our police department. Because by the time that fell on our lap, I want you all to know, and I think most of you know, I was very upset about that, because I've lived in Morris my entire life. I grew up with men in blue. They were some of my best friends as a kid growing up. They provided guidance and leadership to a young kid. And I think the real losers out of this whole police department thing, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, is our children. Because we currently I know Jason and his staff they're gonna do a great job. I have confidence in that end. But there are some basic services that we used to provide that are no longer gonna be there. We used to have a DARE program. We used to have a school resource officer up at our schools. And when we signed the contract with the county, we, Jeff, I, all the city council representatives, we relinquished our input to how law enforcement goes going forward. So if there's something that we want to see, you're going to have to talk to Sheriff Dingman. You can't come and talk to us about it because we no longer have any input and control over local law enforcement. So I'm just using that as an example. I'm not here to bash and make these people that are sitting here feel bad for their decision. I think they made the decision they did. As you know, I was the one that voted to keep the police department, but I don't want to look backwards. We need to look forwards. Jason and his staff will do fine, but we just need to do a better job at communicating.
I'm going to address the communication. When I was speaking about communication wasn't necessarily so much because the questions were asked about how do you communicate discussions between different groups and more communication that way. So that's where my communication was. How do you as citizens communicate with the council? And I know I heard that that sometimes we're not a welcoming group. Okay, that's fine. Those are all the communication things that we need to hear, though, that I need to hear as a council member and as a mayor, is what can we do to make you feel more welcoming? And that's the communication that I was trying to speak of, not necessarily between the council and our city manager. But as always, there's always in any place you go, that's where might be some needed help too. But my communication was more between the council members, the mayor, and the citizens of Morris. What are you looking for? I'm out and about a lot in Morris, and I very seldom have people ask me questions about the city council like we're doing now. So, or what are you looking at, or what can we do, or here's what I think. We do all have an email. That's very seldom do I get emails from people. So those are the communication things I'm working at trying to get, is how do we get you as the citizens to tell us what we need, what you would like to see, or what your vision is, or hey, I was looking at, have you guys ever thought of this? So that's a communication I was referencing mostly in my answers.
Much like Autumn, I'm not currently sitting on city council, so for me there will be a learning period. Now with that being said, there's a couple of my coworkers here tonight that can attest that I typically am an over communicator when it comes to work related items. So I'm not necessarily too concerned with my ability to communicate. That being said, I would like to, I think, was it you, Kevin, or you, Jeff, that brought up the city manager review, right? I'd like to see what that looks like, and I'd like to dig more into that. I'd also like to say that once a year might not necessarily be enough. I understand that it ends up becoming a paper pushing process, and nobody wants that. But at the same point, you need to have annual reviews. You also need to have, whether it's quarterly or twice a year or whatever, you need to have that line of communication open. And hearing that department heads were discouraged from coming to council meetings is very, very frustrating, and it's disheartening. And I'd like to encourage that to not only department heads to come to council meetings and to approach council members on the outside of meetings, but additional city workers and people in city government, because their direct line to the council is through the city manager. There's the potential for it to get lost right there. And I'm not saying that that's happening currently, but I'd like to have other avenues available for people if they feel that they need to have their voice heard, to get their voice heard.
This is just for Mr. Miller. And the final question, hang on, I have notes. It was the bridging gap between different interest groups, right? I didn't understand what your answer was, because I felt like a lot of what you were saying is what is currently being done, and I don't know what you're doing for it and what you will be doing if you get reelected.
She's asking what you want to do. If for the people in the back, she's asking what Miller is going to do as a city council candidate.
Well, I guess me as well as the whole city council is the communication with the different groups. I have matured and grown a lot in the 62 years I've been alive. Yeah, I was pretty set in my ways, but after sitting on the Human Rights Commission and getting through some different things there, I have pulled my horns in some and have grown up some and have been much more inclusive with family members that are dating people of black race, different minorities. But having 7 sisters, yeah, I've come to be involved with a lot of other family members that have other issues, or my younger nieces and nephews that see things a total 180 than how I see it. So yeah, I'm maturing and growing as I grow with family members and the people in the community. I guess just trying to work with everybody and to be inclusive. Thank you. Anyone else? Or is there, I hate to hog all the time.
I think I can project. I teach at the college, so I guess I should say this is much a compliment as a question. It's something academics say a lot. I do want to think, I think this is remarkable that we had this great turnout. This is how you make change. You get involved. My question for the candidate is going to be out of left field. Morris just recently celebrated 150 years. What is one thing you can do in your term to help guarantee that we will be here for our bicentennial?
So how do we have another 150 years? I think we need to continue to promote our campus. As already discussed, we've had a bad light upon us recently questioning if we're too diverse. And I think we need to continue promoting all the highlights of our campus, our astounding curriculum, how wonderful our diversity is. We have some big industries in town. We need to continue supporting these industries. Of course, that comes hand in hand with the low employment in town. And I think that all rolls together. The low enrollment in Morris, the low employment rate in Morris, keeping our large industries going. We need to continue to find a way to make Morris welcoming, inviting. How do we get our students to want to stay in Morris? As previously mentioned, many members up here have been UMM graduates. I 2 years ago was a graduate, and now here I am living in Morris. How do we get more people to stay in Morris? Because I know a lot of the time when I tell people, I'm no longer a student, I'm graduated, and I'm living in Morris, I've had people thank me for staying in Morris because they've had so many people they know leave Morris. How do we continue making this a wonderful place for everyone to live? How do we get people to want to be homeowners in Morris, to make this their lifelong home? I think that is the key to having another successful 150 years forward.
Well, we need to continue looking forward, but also from our past, that we need to continue to change and yes, be inclusive of the college, but the business, all the different nationalities, bringing everyone together to work as a team, regardless of our beliefs, to support our community. If it's the businesses uptown, the university, the schools, we need to work together, stick together, and be a community. Just draw on our strengths that we have from within.
I shared with you earlier that I sit on the tourism board, and I think one of the benefits of that and some of the progress that we've made is we're making people aware of Morris. We're getting the word out there when we have events to try to attract people to come to our city. On the short term, they come for different events, But what that does, when we can pull them people in, it's tourism's responsibility to get people here, and the local Chamber of Commerce works to try to keep people here. So if we can get people here, they may come, and it may start out as just a visit, maybe because there was an event that they came to. And you just never know. They may look at that and think, wow, this is a pretty cool little town. You know, and you never know. They might decide to make Morris their home. I guess I would put this out to you, Wes. I mean, we all came here for various reasons. Some, you know, we have very stability. We have a very stable economy, local economy. We have a lot of government employment here. So if you look at Morris from a economic stability standpoint, we have a lot of, like I said, a lot of government employment, which also makes a very solid base economically. We have a lot of private sector employment. We have Superior Industries, Westmore. There's just a lot of opportunities for people there. I think if we can continue to work keeping Morris a safe place to raise their kids, whether it's the Morris Police Department or whether we have a Sheriff's Department, that is a huge thing. I don't know how many people, the different people I talked to, young families that came to Morris, they chose Morris because it was a good, safe place to raise their kids. And if we can continue to keep our citizens safe, we have an aging population in this city. We do need to get and attract new businesses. So we're all getting older. You know, I'm getting older, and you know, every one of us sitting in this room, we're going to want to retire someday. I'm already there, but somebody's going to have to pay our Social Security and keep us going. So we need to attract young families. So I think if we can do those things, I'd like to see another 150 years, but I don't know if I'll make it. But anyway, I think that's a good start.
I think we get to the next 150 years by continuing to forge forward with where we are at now going forward. I mean, I look around the room and I see a lot of people that I've seen ever since I've lived here, but I also see a lot of new faces. And that comes from our colleges, that comes from our businesses, our industries bringing in people. So I think we just have to continue to appreciate everyone who comes to our community, because we do have a lot of wonderful things going on here. It just, again, just embracing the diversity of the people that here. It may be others from out of our county that say things, but in our community, we know better than that. So, and encouraging our young people to get involved, encouraging all of us to get involved. If you see something you want, hey, let's talk about it. So I see that as how we get to our next bicentennial.
I think that some of the biggest challenges that Morris faces is potential growth opportunity. And there's a number of different things that will hamper any further potential growth. Obviously, we beat the daycare thing to death, so we're gonna leave that one be for the moment. I think industry and new industry is another one that needs to be addressed, whether that be in an industrial park. The further west you go, there's central hubs, whether that be Watertown or Sioux Falls or Fargo from north to south, right? So that would be another potential option for Morris, would be to start to be a hub. Obviously, we are a college town, so potentially bringing in something, whether that's a large box store or something along those lines, that would have to be something that we would have to look at. It's not something you necessarily want to do with the amount of small business that we have, but it's something that you might potentially have to. I'd like to see a further growth in small business and companies that focus that way, but you have to keep your options open as well.
You can go first. Okay, mine's quick. I heard you speak about contacting through email. I didn't know that was an option. So if I could get like a form of contact in case I have further questions, how would I contact you guys?
You go on the city website under council, it lists all of our names and emails.
And phone numbers.
And phone numbers, and when our term is up.
I think it'd be a good question for everybody.
So thank you for asking that. I probably should have clarified that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's normally posted in the Morris paper occasionally too, just inside that it's normally listed for our contact for all of us.
And does that function for those who aren't currently on the council?
So let me give you my email. If you or anybody else wants to directly email me any questions, I'd be happy to reply. It's Autumn C. Johnson, AUTUMNCJOHNSON, the numbers 16@gmail.com.
Are there any capitals?
Nope, all lowercase.
Alright,
You can keep it, I can show.
Okay.
Like Autumn, my email is KROEL007, and that's @gmail.
thank you. I think she had a question too.
Yeah, just stand up.
Make sure to project. Make sure they can hear you.
So, if there's like a lot of like stray cats out, like, I don't know, like how would you like want to do to like fix that kind of, or like, I don't know, like.
No,
yeah,
that is a legitimate issue, because one or two stray cats, if they're unfixed, leads to a few dozen more stray cats. And I think Diane might have brought this up on one of the public Facebook pages, that this is a concern. You know, our shelter is full of cats. People always want kittens, they don't want adult cats, and now our shelter can't accept any more of the stray cats. So I think that is a good issue that needs to be addressed. How are we able to address all these stray cats? Are they cats that someone owns and they are outdoor cats? Is there a way that we can track them and so we know whether or not this cat has an owner? Or can we set up a program in order to spay and neuter so we can ensure that one or two cats doesn't become a few more dozen cats? I think that's a really good point to address, and I think that's something that we need to look at further options, working with the local vet clinic and the local shelter to see if we can help sponsor or create a teamwork method to be able to address that problem.
I believe if you call the police department, they will attempt to get a stray cat, stray dog, and take it out to the shelter for somebody to claim it, and if not, it proceeds to what happens after that. But yes, contact the local Morris Police Department, Sheriff's Department, and they will deal with it.
Well, I guess I wish I shared your optimism, Jeff, but you know, that is some of the things that still need to be written, really, with regards to what your question really relates to is some of the local city ordinance type things that we had. Because I say had, because those city ordinance type things, you brought up cats. You know, my question, and I don't really have a good answer for you, is now who, you know, we have an ordinance against tall lawns. You know, your neighbor doesn't mow his lawn and they don't shovel their sidewalk. You know, when somebody asked me before, you know, what is the answer? Who's going to take care of this? If I was to answer that question today, I'm not sure I can tell you to call the Sheriff's Department that they have full confidence that they will do it. Because it's kind of really up to Sheriff Dingman which types of ordinances he's going to police. They have, as a county, they have an awful big area to cover. And I know they hired several new officers, and their commitment is to take care and pick up the policing responsibility for our community. But some of those, I don't know if you want to call them smaller ordinances or smaller problems, are those types of things going to get handled? That would be a question we really should, and as we go into this transition, as we move through this transition, those types of things will get established. So I guess what I would like to encourage everyone in the audience right now is just have a little patience with how this thing is going. If things may not just click and they may not happen as fast as you would like, because Jason is learning as he's going too. But again, like Autumn said, and I think everybody at this table feels fully confident that Jason and his department will do well. But very good question, thank you.
In dealing with any type of issue that maybe we don't have an ordinance for, or maybe we do and we're just not following it. Again, we just need to get people together, we need to have dialogue, we need to listen, we need to come up with what are we gonna do when there's a situation and a problem. We need to get the right people on the table to figure that out as well. At the table, not on the table. We'll get them at the table. It's getting kind of late, people.
Thank you for your question. I was not expecting or prepared to answer a question about cats this evening, so thank you. I graduated with a degree in political science, but I do have a minor in biology, so I can tell you that cats wreak havoc on ecosystems on a microscopic scale. So I think that basically everyone else has addressed most of what my comments were. Right, we need to on a local level look at ordinances that are in place and how they are policed and enforced. We also need to have communication between not only the sheriff's department, but the city council and the citizens, because that's the most important one there. And then we also needed to get community buy-in, again, like Autumn said, whether that be working with the shelter to promote adoption days or spade and neutering events, things of that nature.
One more.
So we only have time for one more question.
You got one.
You're good? Okay. Sounds good. So earlier tonight, there was somebody that mentioned that wages needed to be discussed, and I'm curious from each of you if you really think that that's something that the government really should be involved with, and why.
I don't necessarily think that is government's place to decide a dollar amount. I don't think that's necessarily city council's place to be telling local business owners you should be paying this amount. I think you're correct in that aspect. I meant it more as an intention that that's something that should be discussed on a citywide level. It should be discussed, is this what's preventing people from applying at certain places? Is that really the thing that's stopping businesses from being able to have enough employees? So I think it's a discussion that city council can help facilitate, but isn't necessarily city council's position to be able to make a solid decision for business owners in Morris.
I do not believe it's the city's business to get into determining wages other than a city-owned business per se, the liquor store, the library, the different jobs of that type. But if you don't like what the wages are, hopefully better yourself, find a different job. But I don't think the city should get involved in trying to determine what somebody's going to pay a wage. It's just, I think the bit more government we have, the worse off we are, is just my feeling. The less government, the better for all of us.
You know, as a former business owner, I can tell you that government has no place in the private sector businesses. It's really going to have to, that responsibility has to come on each individual business as to how profitable they can be. Yeah, would it be nice to pay everybody $50 an hour, but you can't. You know, you got to look at the bottom line, and we just can't have government dictating to a local business and what, you know, they should pay their employees. You're just going to have to let the market and the competition between businesses kind of play out on that. So that's my thoughts.
Only the council should be involved in wages for city employees. That would be it. And then we would really need to look at those as we are for some right now. Otherwise, businesses are their own private industry, and they need to look at what's best for their business and what they can handle and what they can afford to pay.
I'm in agreement with basically everything that everyone said here, right? The city government can work with government offices, and that should be what they should be focused on as far as salaries and such go there. But as soon as you venture into the private sector, that's the starting wage is dictated by the state and federal, and then after that, it's on the individual business.
So then if I may, as a follow-up to that, obviously there's been a lot of talk about change, communication I've heard 1,000 times. Haven't heard anything about accountability, none of this from leaders or future leaders. But if you have all this change that you want, and wages got brought up, I mean, I feel like we're just circling around. I haven't really heard anything about what rubber is gonna hit the road, right? So, I don't know, I guess it's something for you guys to think about, or it's something as me as a voter to think about. So I don't feel like I got an answer.
Can I answer this as a small business owner?
No. I'm a small business owner too. I'm not looking for your input. I'm not voting for you. Okay, I'm voting for them.
But just to let you know, some of our small businesses cannot afford what
I am a
places-
small business owner.
Understandable, but some of us cannot afford the level
Rein them in.
these kids want.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying.
I would like to have a conversation with you after the debate. I think they're trying to finish up because I think it was supposed to end a few minutes ago. But I'd be really happy to sit down and have a conversation with you on what actions you would like to see. I know we've hit a lot of those highlight big green flag words a lot that everybody wants to hear. The communication, change. We're going to take action. But I agree. We haven't had a plan in place. What exactly are we going to do? And I think that's what when I think about a communication, that's what I need. I want to have a sit down with local business owners. I want to have a sit down with involved, concerned citizens on what we can do. So I would love to discuss this further with you right now if you have some time.
All right, so we have about 4 minutes left in the debate. Just as a little reminder for everybody, I want to ask the candidates to give their name and in 1 or 2 sentences what you're running for and why you're running. Just as a reminder to everybody.
My name's Autumn Johnson. I'm running for City Council, and I'm running to help represent some of the more quiet voices in our community. I have worked with vulnerable adults, victims of crime. I've been a college student, and I'm now a resident of this town, so I think I'm a good representative of a lot of diverse communities in Morris.
Jeff Miller, running for City Council. I've been on the council since 2005. I think we have a lot of things to accomplish yet on working with some of our green energy to keep working to get solar on our water treatment plant, our sewage ponds, keep developing things in town for the daycare and the housing projects, and just working in the community to build a stronger community for everyone. Thank you.
Again, my name is Kevin Wohlers. I am halfway through my 3rd term. I've got just a tick over 10 years of experience on the council. I'm very familiar with how city government works from over those past 10 years. Strong communities require strong leadership, and I will provide that leadership if elected your mayor. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions, but I think the biggest quality that the office of mayor can bring to the people in Morris is to be approachable. And I want everybody out there to know that if I was elected your mayor, you can feel comfortable coming and talk to me, because again, it's not about me and what I want, it's about what you want. Thank you.
Kim Gullickson, and I'm running for the office of mayor. And I just want to stress again that my position here is to get more people involved, more involvement from our community members. And in doing that, then we all take pride in our community and we'll push it forward.
I'm Zach Kroells, and I am also running for mayor. And for me, I'm running because I want to see some change in certain areas, and I'm willing to put in the work and effort in order to see that change accomplished.
How about we get a round of applause for our candidates real quick? Thank you all so much for making it here tonight. Thank you to everybody in the audience. Thank you, Noel, for recording the event. We're going to post this out on YouTube by tomorrow. So if you have any friends who couldn't make it tonight, let them know that they'll be able to find the recording online of the video of the debate. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Dylan.